Shalom. I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, who rule well, who teach well. Much respect to the brothers labing worldwide in truth and in sincerity. And salutations and blessings to the hopeful elect, the believers out there who's believing on the words of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Coming at you with a lesson, Lord willing, is edifying. I read and crossed a video from Al Jazeera dealing with what? The oncoming famine that the Lord has prophesied he was going to bring upon this place. Okay? Let's start here in 2nd Esdras chapter 15 and verse 10. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. Yeah, we're in the land of our captivity. Okay? Spiritual Egypt, spiritual Sodom. Deuteronomy 5 and 6, land of your captivity. Hey, pursuant to what? Deuteronomy 28 and 68, the curses. Right? But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So it lets you know that all the land of this Egypt, this captivity, is going to be destroyed. Gives you another clue, another nugget, letting you know this is Egypt. Okay, America, Babylon the Great. But the Lord said what? He's going to smite Egypt with plagues as before. Excuse me. Let's go to Psalms chapter 105 and verse 23. Israel also came into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham. And he increased his people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants. Yeah, the same thing that's going on now, right? And he sent Moses, his servant, he sent Moses, his servant, and Aaron, whom he had chosen. And they showed signs among them and wonders in the land of Ham. He set darkness and made it dark, and they rebelled not against his word. He turned waters into blood and slew their fish, and their land brought forth frogs in abundance in the chambers of the kings. He spake, and there came divers sorts of flies and lice in all their coasts. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land. He smote their vines also and their fig trees, and brake the trees of their coasts. He spake, and the locusts came, and the caterpillars, and that without number, and did eat up all the herbs in the land, and devoured the fruit of their ground. You see? So what is this? This is a famine. The Lord has smite the waters where the fish died, hail where it killed all the cattle and livestock, and lastly he sent the caterpillars and the locusts that ate up all the herbs in the land and devoured the fruit of their field, of their ground. Okay? So what did the Lord send? He sent a great famine upon Egypt. Okay? And it was what? A process. It didn't just happen overnight. And this is what the Lord is doing now. It's a process. So the video I have queued up, it's by Al Jazeera. It says, done late last year, I believe. It said, surviving on peanut butter and crackers, starving in Trump land. Okay? And if you know anything about West Virginia, heavily Republican state, heavily opioid addicted state, heavily poor state. But you know, you wanted to vote for Trump. Well, that's neither here nor there. It's about a 10-minute video clip, but we're gonna play only 8 minutes of it.
Kind of hard when you don't live in the state of West Virginia to be able to understand what really goes on here. It's like feast or famine at this point, survival of the fittest.
West Virginia, a state home to idyllic rolling hills, scenic mountaintops, and more than 1 million residents. But look a little closer, and you might see something very different. The state that once housed a robust coal mining industry and supplied 27% of America's coal is today the 4th poorest state in the country, with rampant food insecurity and a deadly opioid crisis. And that was before the pandemic.
I pulled myself up by the bootstraps so many damn times that I've ripped them off. I have 2 jobs and a bachelor's degree, and I struggle to make ends meet.
Today, West Virginia is a state where 17% of the population relies on food stamps to survive. 2 food banks are tasked with feeding 1 in every 7 adults and 1 in every 5 children. It's a place where being poor and without food is pretty much accepted as the norm. So what happens when a state like this gets hit by a pandemic?
Sometimes I have barely enough. It's almost like a hamster wheel, like that just becomes your norm, and it's everyone's norm around you.
Less than a month before COVID-19 hit, we met up with Amy Jo Hutchinson to talk about hunger in her state and what the Trump administration's proposed $5.5 billion cut from the nation's nutrition program would mean to the hundreds of thousands of people relying on it.
We have to flip this narrative that the government wants us to feel like...
I want you to pay attention to who is in these clips. All right, you may see 1 or 2 Jakes, but what you're going to mainly see are Edomites, man. Okay? But you Jakes are supposed to be the ones who make up the most people who's on food stamps and welfare. That's a lie. Numbers perpetrated by the enemy, the devil, the so-called white man.
We're doing something wrong. No one does anything wrong enough to be so hungry they want to die. And I don't care, I'll never believe that anyone has done anything that wrong.
Since coming...
Tell you what, you just wait. You're going to want to die, and you're not going to be able to die. When your ribs start touching your back, you're not going to be able to die. All right? That's the Lord preserving these plagues for Egypt.
Into office, the Trump administration has worked to cut the number of people who qualify for food stamps, the majority of whom are working or in between jobs and have families with children.
Poverty is a circumstance. It's really not a character defect, although a lot of people want to make sure that we feel as if it's a character defect.
A circumstance that has caused nearly 40 million low-income Americans to rely on food stamps because they can't afford to feed themselves.
I have to expand things out so that I know that they all have food in their bellies and that they're well fed. If you don't have the necessities up in your cabinets, you will struggle, possibly starve without it.
Kaylin Fritz is a single mom from McDowell County, the poorest county in all of West Virginia. Like other SNAP participants, she gets her benefits just once a month. She lives here with her 3 kids and receives $600 a month for food. Now, if you do the math, that comes out to less than $5 a day, exactly $166 per meal per person in 2020. The average meal in West Virginia, well, that costs $277. So you can start to see the problem.
I know they say that people who live on food stamps have it made, but you don't. You really don't. Once you get your food stamps, by the time you feed your kids, it's not even enough for yourself. You have to still save cash and make sure you have money on the side to get more food. So, no, it's not enough.
When we first visited Kaylin before the pandemic, it was the end of the month and her car had broken down, so she needed a lift to her local pantry for groceries. Pantries are the heartbeat of West Virginia, feeding many residents once their monthly aid runs out. Over 100 miles north of McDowell County, Tiffany Brashear was prepping her own pantry to serve folks in her community.
Okay, thank you. There's limited resources here, not only here, but most counties in West Virginia. limited resources for any kind of socially necessary service, if it's therapy or food or utility assistance.
A month into the COVID-19 outbreak, the Trump administration tried to remove nearly 700,000 people from SNAP, the country's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The administration's goal? Tighten restrictions on ABODs, able-bodied adults without dependents. But a federal judge blocked the rule. Between the blocked move and the virus not hitting them for some time, West Virginians considered themselves lucky. But maybe they spoke too soon.
Our health officials came to me and said, now we do have our first positive confirmed.
Food prices skyrocketed during the outbreak. And so life in food deserts with no access to grocery stores became even harder to bear.
We're seeing an increase of people outside the geographic of who we normally serve. Single moms, working parents, grandparents. We have a lot of grandparents coming to get food for their grandchildren because they're raising them and they're on a set income.
I'm gonna tell you why they're raising those grandkids too, because their parents, okay, or their sons and daughters have died of that opioid, man. The Lord is beautifully bringing down Babylon the Great. Matter of fact, let's get a quick precept. We'll head back to this video. And these are what? War tactics. Okay? This is Exodus chapter 15 and verse 3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh Bahashah is his name. So the Lord is what? A man of war. Okay? And he's strategically bringing down Babylon the Great.
Just a lot of emergency and a lot of immediate need now, and that has increased threefold at times. Whereas before, I was dealing with a few hundred people in an area that was struggling with food access, and now there may be 1,000 people in the same area that had the same struggles, especially families with children.
Once COVID-19 hit West Virginia, welfare programs actually helped in ways they hadn't before. SNAP applications, which normally take time to process, were suddenly being waived. Recipients who previously had to show proof of their work hours were now getting cleared for the full amount.
West Virginia is in such bad shape that any little tiny thing like that is going to make a huge ripple.
But that doesn't mean that everything's been easy.
Populations that we don't talk a lot about are the working class people and the ones who make too much money to receive assistance, but they don't make enough to get by. And those people are the ones that were very hard hit this time.
That's because there's also this phenomenon called the cliff effect. Here's what it looks like. Imagine you're a SNAP participant. You have a vehicle and you're making the monthly 80-hour work requirement. You're doing great at your job, and because of that, you manage to get a promotion, raising your hourly wage up 50 cents. Now, after receiving that raise, your income increases ever so slightly above the poverty line. Well, guess what? You and your family just lost all eligibility for benefits because you're making too much.
They're already struggling to put food on the table. They don't qualify for SNAP benefits. They're the ones now that are waiting in the food pantry lines and the soup kitchen lines.
In Kaylin's case, it looked like this.
Me working affected my food stamps. It dropped down. I was getting like $6.49 and now I only get like $2.50 something.
It also caused a ripple effect across most of the state. About a month after the virus broke out, the state would go from a 6% to an almost 16% unemployment rate. And school closures meant that kids who relied on subsidized free lunches were now missing meals.
And so what happened was the schools closed down, and one of the biggest needs immediately was, oh my gosh, how are we going to make sure that everyone's fed?
I had a friend come to me the other day. She was like, look, I have 5 kids and I only have $20. Is there anything you can do for me?
I received a text message from a young lady, and all she had in her house was peanut butter and crackers, and said, I've been eating it, for a week now. Is there anything you can do to help? And she was a working class woman that lost her job and was
Hey, call all your how about Shy?
pretty much begging for food.
And with food scarcity so high and people so desperate, Kaylin says she fears for the future of local farms like the one she works on.
It's getting rough. It's going to come to a time when people are fighting for food.
Wait, what?
People are having to rely on food.
She fears for the future of local farms like the one she works on.
It's getting rough. It's going to come to a time when people are fighting for food.
She said it's going to come a time where people are fighting for food, right? Isn't that biblical? Let's go get it. Okay? Back in the second Esdras, chapter 15, and verse 12. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague. And the punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it, they that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with fearful constellation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Yeah, this is a worldwide thing. Okay? You already said that food insecurity around the world is increasing, right? For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard the kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. For because of the pride of the cities, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And this is the point. What did she just say? She just said what? It's going to get to a point where people are fighting over food, right? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. This is what's coming to the whole world. Why? Because of the controversial Zion. Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 24. What does that say? Signs of Hamashiach's return. All right, that's why we hasten in the coming of Yahweh Bashar, right? These are the signs that are being left for us to see. Okay, this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the building of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, See not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Now you go into this world. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do it now. It's eon or aeon, right? Which talks about an unbroken age, all right? A period of time. This current rulership. That's what it's speaking about in this word world. Okay? See? Strong's G 165. Aeon or eon.
Strong's G 165. Ion.
Okay. Forever an unbroken age. Perpetuity of time, eternity, right? Not the worlds, not universe, no. Period of time, age, you see? So they was wondering when would be the end of Esau's rule. Because you got to understand, they were still under Roman occupation at that time, right? Why it shot me all the way down to the 36th verse. Let's go back up. Matthew 24 and 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Yeah, this current rulership. Esau is the end of the world, matter of fact. Let's go get that. Salakia. Esau is the end of this current rulership, right? Let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 6. Okay? That's what scripture say. Let's read it. This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 6, and verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world. You see? And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So this is what the disciples were asking Hamashiach, right? When will the Israelites be back in rulership? Okay, and we're going to read the signs that we are to look for, right? Verse 4. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying that I am anointed, and shall deceive many. Yeah, we see these false prophets popping up out the woodwork, all right? Some has been already here telling you to take the vaccine, telling you to trust your enemy, right? And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and we just read that in 2nd Esdras, okay? And kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, you see? So that's where we at. We're in this process of the prophecy. Why? Because we've been watching the times diligently, measuring them diligently. Okay? This is Isaiah chapter 3 and verse 1. For behold, the Lord of hosts, doeth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and staff and whole stay of bread and whole stay of water. Yeah, this is the Lord that's doing this. Okay? The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient and the captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to their princes, and babes shall rule over them. Yeah, Esau, the damn kid, is ruling over us. Okay? And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Yeah, and we seeing that exhibited every day here in Babylon the Great. But the Lord is what? Is going to take away the whole stay and the whole staff of bread. Okay? Why? Because of the wickedness that's exceedingly polluted the whole earth. Okay? And these things is going to what? Bring on that UBI, where have you trust in this damn beast system. It's going to cause you to what? Receive that mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. Okay? Let's go to Genesis. Chapter 47 and verse 20. Look at this. Result of the famine. So the Lord has put these things in place so the things that have been will be again. And he's going to sift out those who don't trust him. Right? Matter of fact, let's get a quick precept. The Lord is going to sift out those that don't trust him. Okay? To the point where he's going to cause you to trust Esau, Edom. Right? This is Nahum chapter 1 and verse 7. The Lord Yahweh Bashar is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows them that trust in him. You see? So the Lord knows who trusts in him. Okay? And let's go back to Genesis. Okay? What it says, result of the famine. Okay? It says, and Joseph brought all the land of Egypt of Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field because of the famine. right? Because the famine prevailed over them, so the land became Pharaoh's. And that's what you see with that UBI, all right? Universal basic income. The result of this famine is going to cause everybody to, be basically at a global reset at zero, okay? And the government is going to come in, that sly devil, okay, the serpent, and offer you a way out, okay? And if you trust in the devil, you're going to take that. And it's going to be what? To your shame. Fact. Let's go get that. I ain't want to make this too long, but hey, go with the spirit. This is Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 7. For the Egyptians shall help in vain. You see? These same Egyptians we just read about in 2nd Esdras, right? And to no purpose. Therefore I have cried concerning this. Their strength is to sit still. Now go and write this before the men at the table and note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever, that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of the Lord, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. Yeah, they want you to tell you that everything's going to be okay, but it's not. It's only going to get worse. And if you don't turn back to your power, you're going to perish here, right? Get you out the way, turn aside out the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. And that's what they constantly saying, right? Wherefore, thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because you despise this word, and trust in oppression and perverseness, and stay thereon. Yeah, you making Esau your own, right? Therefore, this iniquity shall be to you as a breach, ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cut off suddenly in an instant. See, it's gonna come suddenly in an instant, and you're gonna not be able to save yourself, basically. Why? Because you ain't want to trust in the Lord Yahweh Shah. Okay? That's going to be it for the lesson. Lord willing, it's been edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Lord willing, coming next you with a lesson. Till the next time I say, Shalom.